And welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is an old friend to the show who we haven't seen in a while. That would be Minor Vincent from Families Helping Families.
How
Sir,
you doing, Pete?
welcome back. It's been
a while. It's been since Cupcakes.
I was going to say, it's been, what, April?
April, yeah. That was when we had Crazy for Cupcakes.
I know. How have you been? What's new?
Excellent. I've been good.
Good.
We have a lot of things going on this year.
Good. Good.
As you can see, I thought I'd bring along our check.
I was going to say, what's this?
This is the check of the amount that we've committed to Clinton families this year.
Really?
This is our 10th year.
Okay.
And we have grown into 5 community outreach programs.
Aha.
So what we do is we sit down in October and November and try and come up with a rough budget as to how much we're going to fund each program.
Right.
So we have our energy assistance program. We have our fresh produce program.
Right.
We have our Cans for Clinton.
Yeah.
We have Families to Families. And we have Clinton Kids Initiative.
Okay.
And I know we're going to be taping in a few weeks for our food drive, so I'll save.
Well, we won't talk about the food drive tonight.
I'll save the fresh produce in Cans for Clinton until that night. But energy assistance, we try and make sure that there are no families in Clinton that have cold homes in the winter.
Right.
And Clinton Kids Initiative, we provide back to school, we provide warm winter clothing, anything that's related to any needs that a kid would have in Clinton. Backpacks, and Families to Families is a program that we try and target families that are going through difficult situations. It might be loss of a job, an accident, situation where there's an emergency. And so we step in and we help them out in any way that we can.
Okay.
So what we do, like I said, in October, November, we try and estimate how much income we'll have and then divide that into each program. And every single publicly raised dollar goes out to Clinton families. So this year, we made the commitment to $42,000, which is our largest commitment.
Right.
But last year we committed less money, but we spent more than we committed to. So I'm sure we'll, if not, we'll probably exceed that again this year. And it's a tribute to the people in town that we have. Everybody comes up to us and says, "Oh, thank you for all that you do."
Right.
But we're not doing it.
Right. Exactly.
If people in town weren't as generous as they are, there wouldn't be the money there to do some of these programs.
Exactly.
So we're pretty thankful for all the people in town. And it's amazing because, you know, sometimes I'll just go to the post office and check our P.O. box and there'll be checks there and I don't even know how they got there. You know, it's not part of our appeal letter that goes out. It's just people write out a check and send it and say, you know, put this wherever it's needed the most.
Exactly. Put this to good use.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said this is the 10th year. 10th year for Families Helping Families. What we're going to do is tell us a little bit about, for my viewers and listeners that don't know exactly what Families Helping Families is. What are you? What type of organization are you? And we'll roll from there.
We're a 501c3, so that anybody who donates, any donation is tax deductible.
Excellent.
Like I said, we have 5 community outreach programs.
Yeah.
We send out 1 appeal letter every year, and then we have fundraising events. And we have been very lucky that other organizations have come alongside and say, we want to help you. So like every January, as you well know, the Clinton Alliance puts on the pancake breakfast, which is always the last Sunday
of the month
in January before the Super Bowl.
Correct.
And the past 2 years, the Clinton Education Foundation has had the Great Adult Spelling Bee.
Yes.
And they have donated a portion of their profits to us. Okay. So we've been lucky because we're a very small organization, and manpower is always you know, we're always looking for helpers. So
exactly.
It helps us a great deal when somebody says, look, we'll do all the work, and we'll give you a portion of the proceeds.
Exactly. And then you call me, and then my phone rings.
Well, we like to get you involved too. You've been a loyal supporter for all these years.
I was going to say, considering I've got 19 other things running around.
Well, but you always find time. That's a good thing.
Running around the world. Now, one thing that people might or might not know, do you guys just do help families in Clinton, or do you reach other towns as well?
We just do Clinton. People have come up to us and said, could you think about doing families helping families in other towns? And we just, like I said, we're small.
Right.
We've always concentrated on Clinton.
Okay.
The need has grown substantially.
Totally.
So right now we're just going to stay with Clinton. We just we want to feel like we're small enough to make an impact on people's lives. And the nice thing is that over the years, we've developed eyes in the community. So somebody might say, well, how do you find out about? Somebody knows about us, and they know about somebody that's got a need, and they give us a call, and we're able to hook up with them.
Now, what is eyes in the community?
People we ask people to just be aware of what's going on. If you see, if you happen to know of a family in need or somebody, then give us a phone call. If we can help, we will. Or the other thing is we work very closely with Cheryl Church.
Sure.
And
from Social Services.
Clinton Social Services. Right. So there's many times where she might have a funding gap. Mm-hmm. So she will call us and say, can you help? And then we can step in and help different families in that situation.
Exactly.
So it works well. We're not too big that we can't, operate immediately.
Right.
We don't require any applications or anything. There's no paperwork.
No.
Everything's confidential, and we just try and respond to the need.
Now, I guess my other question is, you said you're small, so how many people on the board?
There's only 8 of us.
Okay.
Myself.
Yeah.
Lynn Heideck.
Okay.
Mari Lee.
Who you just interviewed. Who I just interviewed.
Yep. Jessica Demers.
Okay. Yeah.
Dawn Hiddle. Mm-hmm. Jerry Weiss.
Okay.
And Dave Lee.
All right.
Now there's also the network.
A network.
And Jane Scully Welsh. So for 10 years we've built up network.
Right.
And what happens is I can call some of these people and say, look, we're doing a food drive. Can you give us a couple of hours?
Right.
Or at Apple Pie, we need somebody to cut up those 50 apple pies.
Yeah.
So that the board is small, but our related people.
I was going to say the outpouring is pretty large.
Yeah. So we, like I said, when we do an event, there's always somebody that's, say, just give me a call, and I'll make sure I put the time aside to help you guys out.
I was going to say, or if you call me.
If I call you, I know you'll be there.
Because you and I
we've done many, many events together.
In the rain.
In the rain.
In the snow. When it's been 40 below.
At the end of March, when the wind is blowing about 30 miles an hour through Stop and Shop. Yes, we've been there.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, when we're standing in Stop and Shop and the wind's blowing and it's 30 miles an hour winds, people actually feel bad for us.
That's right. We get the sympathy donation.
Exactly. People come out and tell us how wonderful we are, and they feel bad for us.
Like I said, people are very, very generous. We're a small town. We don't have a lot of commercial. We don't have a big commercial base.
Right.
So the same business people are getting hit over and over again.
Sure.
But you know what? They always step up, and they always send a donation. So
totally.
We're very, very fortunate.
All right. We're gonna stay with this segment for a little bit longer. But speaking of being community-based, very community-orientated, there is someone besides you and I that also believes in the community, and he's fairly new to the town of Clinton. Do you know who I'm referring to?
I think you're referring to our new chief of police.
That is correct, who I actually am meeting with later in this week, but I was wondering maybe we can talk about him.
Well, I will tell you a little history.
Yeah.
And this will tell you all you need to know.
All right.
Is his first day in town,
Yes.
the first night, take a guess where he was.
No idea.
He was at our Crazy for Cupcakes contest with his entire family.
Really?
Really. Now, we just, a week from last Sunday, we did an event at Ace Hardware.
Yes, and actually we're going to talk about the event at Ace Hardware when we come back from the break, but let's talk about the event.
Who do you think was there with his daughter?
I know the answer to this question because I saw you earlier in the week. The chief.
The chief.
Yes.
So that gives you a little bit of idea about the man. His big emphasis is getting not only himself, but the department involved in community policing and community events.
Right. And speaking of community events, this is a question I always ask my guest, especially if you're involved with a nonprofit. In your mind, why is it so important to be involved with a nonprofit and get the word spread out in the community?
Well, I think that the reason it's important because there's a lot of people that need help.
Right.
And around the holidays, there's this slogan that says, "Shop local."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I guess our philosophy is give local.
Exactly.
We're doing a summer lunch program for
that's right.
kids in town.
That's right.
And you know what? We did it in conjunction with the state last year, and this year we said we're going to try it on our own.
Okay.
And we got response from people who want to help. We got a restaurant who provides all the food.
Yeah.
So it's a little glimpse of Clinton. We're a small town, but we all get together and we do what's necessary to help people out. We're all fellow travelers. We're going down the road, and all we're doing is trying to reach out. And if somebody needs a hand, we give them a hand. It's basically that simple.
Exactly.
Not that it's easy to, continue to fund all these programs. But I went to the post office today, and there was a check in the post office for $1,000.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Unsolicited.
Holy cow.
Yep.
Now, speaking of the summer meals program, should we call it?
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going very well.
Good.
There were a lot of state regulations with their programs. One of the biggest ones was it had to be in a certain area.
Right.
And we wanted to go off on our own, and luckily we partnered with the library in town.
Yeah, sure.
So it was a central location. They always have lots of programs going on. So they graciously gave us the use for the community room, and we started our program the first Friday they got out of school.
Yeah.
And it'll run all the way through the end of August to the last Friday they're out of school. So there's no missing any meals. And what we do is we have a hot meal on the Friday, and then kids going home will get enough food to carry them through Monday through Thursday, and then
until
they
the
come
following
back.
Friday.
Yep.
Very nice.
So it's worked out well. The library is a perfect location. In fact, they have already spoken to us about next summer maybe doing a program wrapped around the lunch.
Very nice.
So they'd either do it before the lunch or after lunch.
Very nice. My name is Vincent from Families Helping Families. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
All right.
Every day, the people in our community rally in support of United Way as we strive together to make a big impact to change lives in Middlesex County. From our main streets to our institutions, from our neighborhoods to our town halls and our classrooms, we're working with our partners to create a stronger community. It's an inspiring effort, and we invite you to join us. Volunteer, donate, live united.
Looking for Connecticut's best ride? You'll find it at the Closer to Free Ride. On September 10th, ride an inspiring 10, 25, 62.5, or 100 miles. Every dollar you raise supports research and care at Smilow Cancer Hospital at Yale New Haven. This is your ride. Register today at rideclosertofree.org and help bring our world closer to free.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Minor Vincent from Families Helping Families. Sir, Welcome back.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having
buddy.
me.
Hey, thanks for coming
Appreciate
down. So, first half of the show, we talked about families helping families and all the awesome stuff that you guys do. One of the events that you guys do, I see an empty water jug sitting between both of us. What? Why?
Well, as we were talking about some of our programs in the first half,
Yes.
one of our initiatives is called Families to Families.
Okay.
And as we talked about in the first half,
Yes.
having eyes in the community,
Yes.
somebody brought to our attention one of our police dispatchers
Yeah.
who's a quadriplegic
Okay.
who needs a new van. He's got a van that's over 20 years old,
Okay.
and it is falling apart. It has been repaired, being repaired, and now it can't be repaired anymore.
Oh no. Oh
So,
no.
Somebody
Yeah.
brought his plight to our attention, and about 8 months ago,
Yeah.
9 months ago, somebody started a GoFundMe page.
All right.
He needs to collect $30,000 for a new van.
Okay.
Once he has that money and purchases the van, the state will step in and they will outfit it with everything he needs.
They'll customize it.
Yes, the lift gates, special
Right.
pedals, things
Sure.
like that. The problem is getting the van.
Okay.
So about 8 months ago, like I said, somebody started a GoFundMe page.
Right.
Somebody gave us a call and said, you know what, it's kind of gone flat.
Uh-oh.
So I got together with the person you're going to have your appointment with on Wednesday, the chief,
Yes.
and said, how can we help? So we came up with a few little ideas,
Right.
and we started to get the word out.
Okay.
We had a very nice article in the Harbor News,
Yes.
and I had a meeting with my board, and we decided that what we would do is for the month of August, September, and October, we will match any publicly raised money up to $3,000.
Excellent.
And I don't have my magic marker with me, but
Okay.
I'm sure that if we get close and we need to, add a few more dollars to the pot to get the van, that we would be willing to do that.
Definitely. Now, how is do we know to obviously the GoFundMe page and the fundraising has been going on for a while. Any ideas as far as a monetary update of how we're doing?
So what happened was we got involved about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Right.
And since that time, the GoFundMe page has increased by about $1,600 to $1,700.
Okay.
Then they had a fundraiser, a dinner for Dave, and that raised, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 more.
Uh-huh.
So we figured if we know we're going to raise the money.
Right.
That's not even a question.
It's just
So we figured between the GoFundMe page and the pasta dinner money and what we raise, we'll be very close.
okay.
So that's why we thought of this idea of matching dollars.
Okay.
And once we want to make sure that at the end of October he's got enough to buy that van.
Right. Exactly. And one thing we didn't mention, we're talking about the events and the fundraisers and all that other good stuff. We didn't mention who Dave is. We didn't mention Dave's name.
His name is Dave McDonald.
Okay.
He's a part-time dispatcher at the Clinton Police Department.
All right.
He would be a full-time dispatcher, but he can't because he is on disability.
Okay.
So he can only work in a limited number of hours.
Right.
And he's a very humble guy, and he's so appreciative of everybody's efforts on his behalf. So we want to make sure that we can raise this money, get him the van, get it outfitted, and so he can be mobile again. It's very hard for him to go places because the current van that he has, it's on its last leg.
Oh boy.
Like I said, it's been repaired, and now it just can't be repaired anymore. It's just literally falling apart.
Gotcha. Now, from what I understand, just by doing some notes and some prep research over the last couple of days, not long ago, you guys did something in conjunction with, and if I get this wrong, please correct me, a local hardware store in the town of Clinton, and I believe, was it J.D. Power?
Yep. Every year, J.D. Power has a rating system where
Yes,
they
yep.
rate hardware stores.
Yep.
And for the last 10 years, Ace,
Yep.
the corporate Ace, has been number one. So what they do is they have a special truck that they decal up, and they will go around to different Ace, local Ace hardware stores
Franchises
all over
like
the
that.
country. So 2 weeks ago,
Very nice.
we did a fundraiser at our local Ace in
Yep.
Clinton, Todd
Right.
Stewart's,
Yep.
and I just got the totals today that we raised almost $2,500
Really?
in 4 hours. We raised about
Oh my goodness.
$2,025, and our local store very generously donated 10% of their sales between 10 and 2 o'clock. And so that was nearly another $450.
Wow.
Yeah, so that,
Oh my God.
that one effort raised a lot of money, which will help Dave.
Holy cow.
That's why we're hoping that, you know, as we keep track of the totals that come in,
Right.
as more and more come in, I'm sure that my board would very graciously consent to upping our 3,000 matching dollars to more.
All right. Now, I think I've got a plan in the back of my head, because I'm going to ask you a question. Question is, somebody writes you a check to Families Helping Families.
Right.
How do you figure out
So there's
the
two.
allocation of which,
Yep.
where it goes?
There's two, in general.
Okay.
Let me do it this. Let me go a different way.
Is there an ism?
No isms.
Okay.
We're saving the isms. See, that's a hook for the audience to get them to come back in a couple
Exactly.
weeks. So if somebody wants to donate to Dave,
Yes.
they can go. He's got a GoFundMe page.
Right.
They can do that. If they want to send Families Helping Families a check, all they have to do is write Dave in the
In the memo.
memo, and it'll automatically be counted as part of the publicly raised dollars.
Okay.
Now, when we do a fundraiser,
Yes.
we don't specifically ask for dollars to go into different programs.
Right.
If some, like I got a check today, and in the memo was for back to school supplies.
'Kay.
So we automatically will put that in our Clinton Kids Initiative
Right.
fund. So what happens is by the end of November, we've gotten most of the dollars that we'll get from our appeal letter, which will give us a good clue as to how much we will have in the following year to
Right.
give up. So then we will, here's an example.
Yes.
We had 3 and 4 years ago, we were spending a tremendous amount of dollars on energy assistance.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is oil was $4 a gallon.
Right.
Well, last year it was down to like $2.29 a gallon.
All right.
So all those dollars that we had set aside went a lot further.
Correct.
So as of right now, we still have a great amount of the dollars allocated from last year for energy assistance. So this year, when we figure out our budget, we won't have to put anywhere near as many dollars in, so we can concentrate on more dollars in, say, the Clinton Kids Initiative or Families to Families.
Right.
And I'll tell you quite honestly, the
Yeah.
Families to Families and Clinton Kids Initiative are number 1 and number 2 right now in terms of dollars needed to help different situations. We just gave social services a commitment to fund back-to-school shoes.
Really?
Yes, and it's a couple of $1,000s.
Now, I guess how does that?
So how it works is Cheryl Church has got made a contact with a shoe company,
Okay.
and they will give her gift cards for shoes.
Okay.
And because it's a town nonprofit,
Yep.
they will also give her a discount. So what we did is we
Gotcha.
underwrote the cost of that program.
Gotcha.
But you know, you don't think about, you know, kids going back to school and they need shoes.
Yeah.
Then we do in November, December, we do Warm the Children. Well,
Right.
last year she was short several $1,000s for, you know, winter coats for kids.
Yeah.
So we stepped in and we had the resources and we helped her out.
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's a balance, and we're not so rigid that we can't say, okay, well, this year we're only going to put in X number of dollars. we can also transfer it into different programs. It's the aggregate, we said $42,000 we think that we could handle.
Right.
Now, the year before, we had a budget and we overspent it by $4,000. But, the need is the need.
Right.
And so, that's what I like about our board. And, they're flexible enough to say, if the need is there and we have the funds, then we're going to spend the funds.
Exactly.
And so, we try and make sure that, we're, like I said, we're in tune. A lot of people, come up to us all the time and say, how can I help? And I said, you can help us by watching out for, like, the people on your street.
Right.
If you see something that's, amiss, or, you haven't seen somebody for a while, or you hear about somebody that's, in the hospital, let us know.
Do a neighbor check.
Do a neighbor check.
Do a neighbor check, exactly.
It's not, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
No,
it's really
I hope not.
simple.
Right.
We just want to take care of people. That's
Exactly.
all. And, we're all, like I said, we're all just going down the same road. We just want to see, make sure that, we can help where we can help.
And from what I also understand, and we're going to talk about this again in a couple of weeks, that you guys also do a food drive, and as far as that goes, is how important is it for people to donate to the local food pantry?
It's huge, because what happens is a gap.
Yeah.
And that gap is, I would say, from the end of May until, ours is generally the end of September. But from the end of May till, I say, the end of October, with the exception of the one that we do, there's no real townwide food drives.
Right.
Now, there's different organizations that will drop off.
Yeah. Yep.
But when we talk about it, I'll tell you how many pounds of food that are given out every week, and you're going to be shocked.
All right. Well,
So it's a constant, replenishing.
Right. Minor Vincent from Families Helping Families. We'll see you again soon.
I hope so.
Me too.
Good to be with
On
you.
behalf of Minor Vincent, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.